everybody. Welcome back to Goodnight, Lighthouse. I'm Miss Dorothy, and I'm here to read you another story. And like I promised, I'm here to read you another Curious George book. We're reading lots of Curious George books this week. I got a whole stack of them, and Curious George is going on so many adventures. And tonight, he's going to find something that I know you like, because this book is called Curious George and the Dump Truck. Curious George and the Dump Truck. George takes a little trip and runs into a dump truck and gets very curious when he climbs inside. Some crazy things happen, because they always do with George. We need to get into this book and find out what happens when George finds a dump truck. Are you ready to get into another Curious George book with Miss Dorothy? Good. I need you to sit up and listen up, because here we go. Curious George and the Dump Truck by Margret and H.A. This is George. He lived with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. This morning, George was playing with his toys when he heard a funny noise outside his window. It sounded like a quack. George was curious. What could be quacking underneath his window? It was a duck, of course. Then George heard another quack and another. Look at that. There's a duck outside George's window. Why, it was not just one duck. It was a mother duck and 5 small ducklings. Ducklings were something new to George. How funny they were. He watched the ducklings waddle after their mother. Where were they going? George was not curious for long. Soon he was waddling after Mother Duck too. Now he could see where they were going. Look at George. He's waddling like a duck and following them. He wants to know where the mommy's taking the baby ducks. The ducks waddled all the way to the park. George loved the park. Today he saw children flying kites and gardeners planting trees by the pond. Then George saw something he had never seen in the park before. What was it? What did he see that was brand new in the park? It was a dump truck, and it was big. In fact, George was not even as tall as one wheel. George forgot all about the ducklings and stopped to look. It would be fun to sit in such a big truck, thought George. No one was inside the truck, and the window was wide open. George could not resist. Uh-oh, George is climbing up into that big dump truck. But sitting in a big truck was not so fun for a little monkey after all. George could not even see out the window. He was too small. If only there was something to climb on. Would this make a good step for a monkey? Oh no, George is standing on the levers. It did. Now George could see out the window. He saw grass and trees and a family eating a picnic. Suddenly, George heard a low, rumbling sound. Was it his stomach rumbling, he wondered? It had been a long time since breakfast. But the rumbling was not coming from George's stomach. It was coming from the back of the truck. George was curious. He climbed out of the window. Then, like only a monkey can, he swung up to the top of the truck. Now he could take a look. He saw the truck was filled with dirt. George was excited. What could be better than a truck full of dirt? George jumped right in the middle of it, sitting on top of the dirt. George felt the truck bed begin to tilt. Oh no, I think those levers George stood on made the dump truck go back. It tilted higher and higher. The dirt began to slide. It was sliding right into the pond, and George slid with it. George was having fun. Whee! But the pile in the pond got bigger and bigger and bigger. And soon the fun was gone. I don't think all that dirt was supposed to go into the pond. Just then the gardeners came back from lunch and stood with their mouths wide open. They saw the empty dump truck, the pile of dirt in the pond, and a very muddy monkey. They knew just what had happened, but before they could say a word, George heard a familiar sound. Oh no. He heard more quacking. The gardeners heard it too. Then they heard people laughing. "Look," said a girl, "the ducks have their own island." Indeed they did. The pile of dirt made an island in the pond, and Mother Duck and all her ducklings were waddling right on top. Look, the ducks are so happy that the dirt went into the pond. George was sorry he had made such a mess, but the gardeners didn't seem to mind. "We were planting more trees and flowers to make the park nicer for people," said one of the gardeners. "But you've made the park nicer for ducks, too." Later, a small crowd gathered at the pond. "Would you like to help me feed the ducks?" a girl asked George. George was delighted. Soon everyone was enjoying the park more than ever before, including the ducks, who were the happiest of all in their new home. The end. Wow, that worked out great, but I was a little worried there for a little while. George climbed into that dump truck and he stood on those levers and it made the back of the dump truck dump all the dirt out into the pond. That wasn't where the dirt was supposed to go. But look what happened. The dirt made a nice island for the ducks. And then everybody was happy that Curious George found the dump truck. That was a fun book. I liked those ducks and all those little ducklings. I think if I had found a duck outside my window, I would have been curious too, like George was. That was a fun book. I'm so glad that we got to read that together. Now, I've got a lot more Curious George books to go. You've got to keep coming back so we can read all of the books I got from the library. But that's tomorrow. Tonight, I need you to get under those covers, get cuddled up, curled up, get tucked in, and give Mom and Dad lots of hugs and kisses. And tomorrow, if you go to the park, if you go to feed the ducks, whatever it is you get to do, obey and obey right away. And then come back and see me tomorrow night, because I'm going to be sitting right here, ready to read another Curious George book to you. Bye! Thanks for reading with Miss Dorothy. I hope you enjoyed this book, and I hope you'll come back soon to read another. What's your favorite book? Drop Miss Dorothy a note and let me know. I'll go find it, and I'll read it to you. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you soon.